Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into an absolutely mind-bending chronological thought experiment. We're going to stretch the limits of our imagination and look at a scenario that challenges literally everything we know about human existence, society, and our place in history. I am so thrilled to take you through this because we're exploring the ultimate shift in reality. We're talking about what happens when human biology, culture, and technology leap forward not by a few decades, but by a full, staggering millennium. Okay, let's jump right in. So what if you fell into a deep coma tonight and woke up exactly 1,000 years from now? I want you to truly picture this. What if you, yes, you, went to sleep tonight, maybe just feeling a little under the weather, and slipped into a deep, medically inexplicable coma? You close your eyes in our current year, but instead of waking up to your morning alarm, you finally open your eyes in July of 3026. 1,000 years have passed while you slept. Now, you might be thinking this sounds like a fun, lighthearted sci-fi adventure, right? Well, actually, scratch that. As we're about to see, you would experience the most intense psychological, cultural, and biological disorientation possible for a human being to endure. To really put the sheer, unfathomable scale of a millennium into perspective, imagine taking a heavily armed Viking soldier from the early medieval world and just dropping them directly into a busy modern-day intersection in Tokyo or New York City in 2026. I mean, the blaring horns, the towering glass skyscrapers, digital billboards, airplanes roaring overhead, everything would be completely and utterly alien to them. For you, waking up in 3026 would be exactly like that, but magnified. Why? Because the rate of technological change is only accelerating. The air you breathe, the way people move, how they communicate, it would all be completely unrecognizable.
Phase 1, the biological awakening. Because honestly, the truth is, you wouldn't just wake up in some dusty, forgotten hospital bed. If your body actually survived for 1,000 years, it means you are preserved in something incredibly advanced. Maybe a highly specialized medical vault, a cryogenic chamber, or an automated stasis pod that meticulously maintained your cellular structure. But here's the thing, waking up is only the very first hurdle. The second your eyes open, your very first challenge isn't cultural. It is purely, clinically biological. Just surviving is going to take immediate, massive intervention. To the humans of 3026, you would essentially be a biological relic. You see, folks in the 31st century would look and function drastically differently than we do today. They've had 1,000 years of targeted genetic engineering, nanotech integrations, and rapid evolutionary shifts. Their immune systems, bone density, and neural architecture completely re-engineered. You, on the other hand, are working with prehistoric biology. You'd be entirely vulnerable to future mutated microbes that their bodies just brush off effortlessly. Plus, you'd completely lack their standard neural mesh implants. Physically, compared to them, you would be incredibly fragile.
So, that begs the question, how do you even survive day one? Well, step one, you'd likely spend your first few weeks inside a strictly bio-isolated containment unit. Absolutely no breathing the unfiltered future air. Step two, automated medical networks would have to run continuous calibrations on your ancient DNA. And step three, you couldn't even step outside until they provided you with a custom environmental suit, or, more likely, performed a massive baseline gene therapy overhaul on your entire body. Only then could you safely step out of your medical pod and actually look at the future.
Which brings us to phase 2, the incomprehensible landscape. The moment you are finally permitted to view the outside world, the visual and physical scale of 31st century civilization hitting your eyes for the first time would be absolutely dizzying. The sheer volume of sensory input, the towering scale of human achievement over a millennium, it would wash over you like a tidal wave. The Earth's surface as you remember it, the geography, the layout of cities, completely transformed and utterly unrecognizable. Think about cities as we know them, rigid collections of dead concrete, glass, and steel. Yeah, those are gone. Instead, you'd likely be staring at living, bioengineered megastructures that literally grow and adapt, stretching miles into the upper atmosphere. The world will be organized into fully integrated planetary networks, all managed by invisible, omnipotent quantum AI cores that regulate everything from weather patterns to resource distribution. The world is no longer built, you guys, it's grown and computed.
And this brings us to the greatest technological shock of all. Just look at the comparison here. On one hand, we have our ancient history, smartphones, localized economies, physical roads. To the people of 3026, these are museum concepts. Now look at the 3026 reality. The era of the screen is dead. Information is no longer something you hold in your hand and read with your eyes. It's an ambient data layer. It's streamed directly into the consciousness of the population via their neural architecture. The entire world is covered in an invisible, telepathic web of data that you, as an unenhanced human, simply cannot see, hear, or access. You would be completely blind to the primary layer of reality. Phase 3, the ultimate disconnects. Once the shock of the towering buildings and the biological hurdles starts to settle, the deeper, psychological reality of your situation really sets in. There are 3 massive structural barriers that would isolate you in this new world, creating a profound, heavy silence around your existence. Let's walk through these barriers one by one, just to understand how isolated you would truly feel. Barrier number 1 is the language wall. You literally wouldn't be able to speak to anyone. Think about how difficult it is for us today to read Old English from just 1,000 years ago. It looks and sounds like a completely different language, right? Now accelerate that evolution by a millennium of globalized technology, instant neural data shortcuts, and machine-blended dialects. The local spoken language of 3026 would sound to you like an incomprehensible string of abstract phonetics and synthesized tones. You would be entirely dependent on an external AI translator just to express your most basic needs. Then we have barrier number 2, the absolute skill reset. I want you to think about what you do for a living right now. Every single piece of knowledge you possess to navigate society in 2026? Completely obsolete. Your ability to write complex software code, manage a popular YouTube channel, navigate modern corporate logistics, or analyze geopolitics? In 3026, all of those skills would hold the exact same practical value as knowing how to properly forge a bronze spear today. You would be utterly devoid of any practical skills that this advanced society requires to function. And finally, we hit the most devastating barrier, the loss of identity. Everyone you ever loved, every building you ever walked past, every country you identified with, and every cultural reference you ever understood, they are all gone. They are deeply buried under 1,000 years of historical dust. You would wake up as the ultimate ghost. You're a person whose entire world, everything that made you who you are, has been wiped from active memory. The profound psychological weight of that isolation is honestly almost impossible to fully comprehend. Phase 4, your value in the 31st century. Now, I know that sounds incredibly bleak, but despite the isolation and despite being a biological relic with 0 practical skills, you wouldn't just be cast aside as a useless outcast. No way. In fact, your unique situation would grant you an incredibly special, surprising role in the 31st century. The very things that make you obsolete actually make you utterly irreplaceable. Let's look at the reality of life in a post-scarcity world. First off, their advanced medical tech can easily keep your 1,000-year-old brain alive and healthy for a very long time. Second, in a society this advanced, basic resources like perfectly synthesized food, incredible shelter, and constant medical care are effectively free and abundant. You wouldn't have to struggle to survive. And third, because all your physical needs are effortlessly met, you're elevated to a completely new status. You become the ultimate historical treasure, a walking, breathing archive of the distant past. Because of this, you become the center of intense, reverent academic study. Historians and anthropologists would treat you with incredible respect. Neural mapping scientists would be absolutely fascinated by your unenhanced, organic brain, studying how a natural human mind processes information without all those ambient data layers. Your everyday memories, things you think are totally mundane right now, would fill critical missing gaps in their ancient databases. To them, you are a direct, living link to a pivotal, legendary era, the dawn of true artificial intelligence, the very early days of space colonization, and the explosion of digital content creation. You are the missing puzzle piece to their entire history. This quote right here really captures that poignant reality. You would live out your new life as a living monument, safely taken care of, but forever looking out at a future that you live in but can never truly belong to. It's a beautifully bittersweet reality, isn't it? You're safe, you're revered, and you get to witness the incredible destiny of humankind firsthand, but you will always be an observer looking through the glass of time. Which leaves us with this final, profound thought. If you were that living monument, if you were the only surviving representative of our current world, sitting in a room with the greatest historians of the 31st century, what single 21st century memory would you most want to share with them? What is the one thing about our time, our lives right now, that you would want recorded in the archives of the future forever? Take a moment to think about that and about your own place in the grand sweep of history. Thank you so much for joining me on this incredible journey through time.